Oh hey, it's Geb. Hello everyone, the name's Geb. It's been a while since we've done one of these, haven't we? Today we're going to be looking at a deck that is currently the best deck in Bo1 Standard, and that being Mono White Aggro. Though, to say that it's simply Mono White Aggro is a little bit reductive, let's look into it further. This deck is best described, or at least I think is best described, as a Mono White enchantment-based tempo-aggro deck. Bit of a mouthful, so usually it just gets called Mono White Aggro for the sake of conciseness. This strategy revolves around threat concentration based around, you guessed it, enchantments. You invest heavily into one or two creatures, but you do so with mana efficient enchantments that simultaneously grow your board, remove opposing creatures, and protect your investment. This deck wins by establishing your board early, and then once your engine is on the field, you then shift into a Protect the Queen tempo posture, forcing your opponents to answer on your terms, and as such, this deck comes in 3 layers. First, the engine we mentioned earlier. Cards like Optimistic Scavenger and Slumbering Keepguard help convert already good enchantments into permanent advantage either through +1/+1 counters or card filtering. The second layer is the payoff layer. This is where Ethereal Armor and Wonderweave Aerialist comes in. The former being your primary payoff swing, giving a creature massive stats and first strike, given the amount of enchantments you're already fielding. And then the latter card that comes already with protection built in with Ward also becomes a flying threat upon being modified. And finally, your protection layer. This is what makes it tempo aggro, with cards like Sheltered by Ghosts and Shardmage's Rescue. These protection and trick spells force opponents to act inefficiently, allowing you to push advantage once you've established it in the early game. These 3 layers are often why it beats out other creature strategies, while still being fragile to sweepers, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But first, let's look at what your typical turn 1, 2, 3 looks like. Turn 1, your typical turn 1 will look into putting out planes and then playing Optimistic Scavenger. Keepguard and Veteran Survivor are also options in case you think the opponent is running low cost removal and you don't want Optimistic Scavenger to be vulnerable to that. Turn 2 is where you begin to build your momentum. Either you start to enchant your 1-drop directly, or you build out your creatures further with Wonderweave Aerialist as a 2-drop. And then turn 3 represents a number of options. You could either play Sheltered by Ghost to remove a threat and gain lifelink, begin piling on scaling enchantments like Ethereal Armor, a most helpful Weaver, and Feather of Flight to mount an offensive, and then all the while you can hold off on just 1 mana to keep Shardmage's Rescue in your back pocket in case of disruption on their turn. The key point is, if you think the opponent is running removal, do not add power unless you can protect it. Winning with a 3/3 ward creature is much better than losing a 7/7 outright. And this leads to our matchups. This deck favours strongly against linear aggro and creature based decks like Mono Red Aggro and Mono Green Landfall / Stompy. This is because your scaling enchantments not only give stats but also keywords like First Strike and Flying which dominate combat. Not to mention Sheltered by Ghost single-handedly flipping the aggro race against them. Your skill testing matchups will be against mid-range and synergy decks like Dimir Midrange, Mono Black Demons, and Reanimator decks. While you can win quickly with a protected threat, if your opening hand permits it, you're still vulnerable to repeated removal and attrition if you miss sequence. Decisions around when to commit versus when to hold protection matter enormously in these matchups. Over-enchanting into open mana will be the most common way you lose against them. And lastly, if you're against control or mill decks, you can certainly try, but the odds are against you. Board wipes ignore ward and hexproof, which are your only means of protection with this deck. Mill attacks your limited threat density, and artifact engines go over the top of your combat. Something you have little to no answer to. Matchups against decks like Azorius Control, Jeskai Artifact, and Dimir Mill are going to be one of your most difficult ones should you pilot this deck. But enough about talking about the deck, let's look at some matches and see how this deck plays. Alright, let's get into a game. We're in gold at the moment because the season's just reset and it's just setting me back down to gold. I'm usually around platinum or diamond or whatever. But let's go into mulligans. So for mulligans, you want at least 2 to 3 lands. You want at least 1 low cost creature, ideally a 1-drop, which we have 3 of them, and then you want at least 1 enchantment that modifies and 1 enchantment that removes, or 1 singular enchantment that does both. We have Optimistic Scavenger, which is our best 1-drop, and then we have Sheltered by Ghosts, which is our best card in the entire deck, so I'm going to keep this hand. Green. Gene Pollinator. This looks like a Badger Mole Cub deck. I'm fine with bringing out Optimistic Scavenger right now, because if he follows up with Badger Mole Cub, we can then Shelter by Ghosts. So. Like so. It's a bit iffy that he's brought out a Paw Patch recruit, but I have no choice here. I have to get rid of that Badger Mole Cub. That's fine. No attacks. Let's hope he doesn't have another Badger Mole Cub. He can keep his talent. That's fine. Oof, another land draw. I can't do anything. That's really unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. It brings down Tyvar. Yep. There's Seam Rip. Tyvar's 3. Paw Patch is 1. We could get rid of the Paw Patch. Or we can get rid of Innkeeper's Talent. Member Ward. And we get another Sheltered by Ghosts, which is even better. I can bring this up to a 4/4. If I bring this up to a 4/4, what does he do with it? He has no more cards. I'll pass. Because that keeps up blockers. He attacks with Tyvar, I go up to a 4/4. Yeah. Land, good. Ah, okay. Fine. We block with this. Just to prevent 8 damage. Nice, we got another Seam Rip. And we pass. I'm sorry, look. can you not be a bother whilst I'm recording? Thank you very much. You're a good girl, okay? Settle down. Ah, another poor patch recruit. That's annoying. And it offsprings. Oof. I'm gonna have to get rid of one of them. Just to control it. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be rough, but... Another shelter by Ghost is brilliant. That's fine. So you see, even though we got quite a lot of land drops, yeah, even though we got quite a lot of land drops that turn, like on the first couple of turns, we're still holding our own against even a deck like this. That's fine. Okay. Well, we still have a Sheltered by Ghosts coming up, so this is fine. And plus I gain 7 life as well. It's a shame we won't be able to get rid of that. But I have to get rid of this. Don't attack. I just hope that the next draw isn't going to be a another land, else we're pretty much done for. Feather of Flight. Card draw. Perfect. He swings 2, 4, 5, 6, 11. I swing for 11, heal for 11. So yeah, we can do this. Oh, I win. Fantastic. And that gets me to platinum. Fantastic. Yep. Just as planned. So as you can see, the modern white enchantment aggro deck, even though the match went a little bit longer and he did build a little bit of a scary board, it does hold its own against it because it just has removal after removal whilst also pumping up the creatures. And we're getting into our second match. Again, we don't have any creatures here, so we're going to mulligan. We have a creature, we have removal, we have enchantments which pump, and we have 3 lands. We could actually go down to 2 lands here, because we only have the 1/1 drop, and we're hoping to draw into more 1 drops or drawing into more enchantments. Let's hope he doesn't have black. Because that could be green. Okay, good. We're going to go first into a most helpful Weaver, because that builds up more board presence, as opposed to putting in an Ethereal Armor right off the bat, which could leave us vulnerable to removal. Another green. Tifa. Brilliant. So we can just do Seam Rip on the Tifa. Add an Ethereal Armor. And already on turn 3, we have an 8-8 and a 2-1 attacking. In fact, we could have done another one, but we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, so it's fine. That is a little bit of a misplay on my part, but ah well. It's not the end of the world. Even if he doesn't manage to remove the Optimistic Scavenger, we're still so far ahead that I don't think he's going to be able to recover from this. Escape Tunnel, Badgermole Cub. That's fine. Double strike onto that. We'll do another Most Helpful Weaver. We'll pump up this body, just so we're spreading it out a little bit. Add another Ethereal Armor. That's good. We'll make this one into a 3-2 just in case. And then we'll attack with both. And he surrenders. Fantastic. Good hand. We'll keep this. Okay. We'll bring out the others as well. Nice. I'm worried about a board wipe, but I'm gonna have to go for it anyways. Okay. Yeah, we don't actually need this. We want a creature. There's the creature. Okay. With a Seam Rip. Nice. That's fine. Wait, I've just won. Okay. I don't know what that was trying to accomplish. I have seen Shrine decks before. I generally do think they are a little too slow for the standard format. So and that's literally why. Like, they just can't get their engine online quick enough. I think there needs to be a control shell around it, most definitely. But I think he played it wrong by just doing draw there. Now that we've looked at some gameplay, let's look at some card options for variations of this deck. The first two cards we're going to be looking at is Spellbook Vendor and Grand Entryway. 2 copies of each, replacing Slumbering Keepguard, I should say. This makes you wider and more resilient at the cost of being slightly slower. Having enchants that don't directly attach to your creatures mean that if those creatures are removed, the loss of enchants isn't going to be that big of a deal if you have Grand Entryway, for example. Slightly better against grindy decks, though slightly worse against aggro. The second is Lightfall Inquisitor, along with Spellbook Vendor again, replacing Keepguard and Veteran Survivor. Again, stronger against grindier matchups, in this case particularly control, where you can delay the sweepers for at least a turn with Light Stall, but again, noticeably weaker in aggro matches as you're slowing your deck down to do this. Now, I wouldn't really recommend you take this into best of 3 as there is a lot of enchantment hate going around, and while you can probably win the first match easily, you'll most definitely struggle in the second and third. But if you really want to take the deck there, here are my recommendations for the sideboard. First, we have Restoration Magic. This is the primary role for this is protection from removal and sweepers, particularly against control with the Curagar option, or with repeated removal from mid-range with just a simple cure option. We have Rest in Peace for graveyard shutdown against reanimator decks and sacrifice decks. We have Requisition Raid for engine/artifact and enchantment removal. We have Split Up as a board reset versus ride creatures, although it goes against your core strategy of having a creature and protecting it. Should you fall behind, this could be an emergency option in case the aggro deck you're facing against or the go wide deck you're facing against is too fast. You have Honor in there for additional combat efficiency outside of enchantments and a little bit of extra card draw should you need it. You have Helping Hand as attrition insurance, so again against decks which have a lot of 1-for-1 removal, you could just throw in your Helping Hand there just to bring back a card which will help your engine out a little bit. And then lastly we have Cosmogran's Zenith, which is in case you want to go a little bit wider with your board and again have a little bit of extra 1-1 counters thrown in there which doesn't come from enchantments. And that just about does it. You want me to highlight another deck? Let me know in the comments below. I put a lot of research into this, so if you can subscribe and give the video a like, that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all again next time. Bye bye.